My name is Mike Delaney, and as part of Harvard Extension School's E90 Cloud Computing course, I'll be talking about Amazon Web Service product, CloudFront. So what is CloudFront? Simply put, CloudFront was designed to increase the delivery time of requests to users. So for instance, let's say we have a user that's in Florida and they want to download content from a website. Let's say that content is pictures, it's videos, whatever it may be. But let's say the website has an original server that's in Boston. That request might take 10 minutes to fulfill. That download might take 10 minutes. So what CloudFront does is it says, let's create a distribution and we'll archive that content at an edge location that is closer to the user. Therefore, lower latency and higher delivery time. Original server can vary. It can be, for instance, an S3 bucket that's hosting static data, images, for instance. Or it can be an EC2 instance. It can be a Route 53 DNS server, and so on. Those are all Amazon products, but that doesn't necessarily mean your original server has to be by Amazon. It's just that CloudFront is optimized to work with other Amazon products. So what are some features of CloudFront? There's cache behavior, origin servers, device detection, geo-targeting, cross-origin resource planning, viewer connection protocol detection, custom SSL, geo-restriction, minimum expiration period, crease-shrink parameters. The list goes on and on. Some of them are direct, some of them are indirect, based off what other products of Amazon you decide to combine CloudFront with. But they're significant and all for different reasons. You may decide to configure some or not use some at all based off your particular plan or your objectives. For instance, you might want to use device detection. You might want to say, I need my edge locations to detect what type of device the user has. Are they on a desktop? Are they on a tablet? Are they using their mobile device? And then based off that information, you can provide certain versions of your content. Same thing for geo-targeting. Now that you know that they're in a specific region of the world, you can provide custom content. So for instance, if I were owner of a hotel and I had a brochure that's in English, but I had, let's say, someone interested from another continent visiting my hotel, I might want to detect that region, adjust the language of my brochure, and provide it to the user in their native language. Then there's access logs, which is data that is used to make business decisions. It will tell me maybe where I have the most downloads coming, maybe where I have the least. Maybe there's something I can do in the region that has the least downloads. I can use that data, pass it on to my marketing department. So of course you want to monitor the traffic on CloudFront as well. So Amazon pricing options has always been pretty popular. I think a lot of people know Amazon is a pay-as-you-go service with most of their products. Here we're looking at a chart, and you can see based off what region you are in the world and based off the amount of data you have transferring, you're charged a certain fee. So this is really dynamic in that it changes based off where your business is. There's also price classes. There's 3 different price classes. There's all, price class level 200, and price class level 100. So the all will include all of these regions. The 200 will include all of them except for South America and Australia, and then the 100 price class will just have the United States and Europe. And then lastly, Amazon gives the option of reserved pricing. So on this one, you would have minimum usage on a monthly basis, but you have to have a 12-month commitment that's required. CloudFront is a very flexible product in that, with the pricing you have multiple options, with what type of original servers you have multiple options, and selecting your edge locations, and if you want to use the management console versus a simple API. So it's an extremely flexible product that is really meant to meet your needs. The only limitation it does have is that it can only handle 1,000 requests every second. If you want to exceed that, that's fine, but you have to put in a special request to Amazon, and that might take up to 2 business days. So in this type of scenario, you might launch a website. For instance, let's say, the government's trying to launch a website for healthcare. You might have several thousand requests every second, in which case CloudFront wouldn't be able to initially handle that load. So that's something you have to anticipate ahead of time. So there's a couple common uses for CloudFront, but among them, the most popular is web applications. Where I put a couple examples here. For instance, in e-commerce, you might want the navigation for the user to be almost seamless. So all the products that they may be browsing, you want to have fast discovery. So the first time an edge location receives this data, the user's request is going to go to your original server. The edge location has never archived the data. It's the first time a user is visiting it. But once that first user visits, now it has the data for all the following users. So all the pictures, let's say you're running an online shoe store, all the pictures of the shoes are going to be already archived as the edge location for all the future users to browse. For instance, if you want to have a weather website where you want to talk about if it's going to snow, if it's going to rain, will it be a sunny day, that's information that's changing on demand, on spot, so you want that information customized. And as I mentioned, one of the features is detection of region. So that's a probability of something you might want to do as well. Or in advertising, now we can use the cookies features, or in social medias, we can personalize the data. So the list goes on and on. One of the main uses, as I mentioned, is for web applications though, and Amazon themselves, in their recommended cloud infrastructure for hosting a website, they include CloudFront. I mean, they have their Route 53, they have their elastic load balancers, their auto scale groups, their EC2 instances, their RDSs with the MySQL, their buckets, and then they include CloudFront. And when they do that, they show that the elastic load balancer is forwarding requests for dynamic content to CloudFront. They also show that request for static content that's coming from the S3 bucket, that request is forwarded to CloudFront. So now I'm going to demo one of the common uses of CloudFront. I'm going to use CloudFront with an S3 bucket. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple web page, and on that web page I'm going to have one image. That image is going to be hosted in my S3 bucket. Then I'm going to go into CloudFront, create a distribution, readjust my links on that simple web page, and then I'm going to open up that web page in the browser. When I do, the request for that image should be coming from my edge location and not my S3 bucket. Using CloudFront is fairly simple because CloudFront is operated via the management console. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the scope of what's going to happen on the PowerPoint slides, and then I'm actually going to demo it in the management console. This covers step 2, which is creating the S3 bucket, an Amazon storage container. I'm going to log on to Amazon, go to S3, create a new bucket under any particular name that I would like. Then I'm going to go to CloudFront, create a distribution, adjust the settings, click Create. Then I'm going to open my web page, edit my links of the image, and make a request to it via the browser. So now I'm going to log into the management console. I'm going to go to My Account and click AWS. And then I'm going to click S3 underneath Storage and Content Delivery. In the top left hand corner, it should say Create Bucket. I'm going to go ahead and click that. I'm going to select the region of US Standard. I'm going to name this particular bucket Cloud Bucket Mic E90. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Create. I'm going to click on that bucket because now I want to upload an image to it. In the top left hand corner, it should say Upload. Now I have the ability to pick what images I want to upload. So I'm going to click Add Files, and then I'm going to select a random image off my desktop. Here's one called New York 1. And before I go ahead and I click Start Upload, I want to click Set Details because it's important that these images are publicly accessible and not just by me, the owner of the bucket. So I'm going to click Set Permissions now, and then click Make Everything Public. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Start Upload. You can see it says Waiting, Starting, and now the transfer is done. My S3 bucket's complete. My upload is done. Now I can go ahead and log into CloudFront. So I'm going to go to my services in the top left. I'm going to look for CloudFront. There it is. I'm going to click that. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Create Distribution. I have two different options. I have Create a Web Distribution or RTMP. Because I'm creating a simple web page and I want my users to have access to one image from my web page, I'm going to create a web distribution. I'm going to go ahead and click Get Started. When you click Origin Domain Name, all the name of your buckets that you've created should come up. So we just created one called Cloud Bucket Mic E90. I'm going to go ahead, click that, It's going to populate my second field. I'm going to leave this on the default setting of no. And in fact, I'm going to leave a lot of my settings on the default because Amazon configured it to be optimized for web applications. So a lot of these I don't really have to adjust. At default, it works with HTTP and HTTPS. That's fine. It allows get and head. That's fine. So all these settings I'm not going to touch for now. The price class is on use all edge locations. As I mentioned, there's also reserve pricing and there's price classing. That's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and click create distribution. And then up here in the status, it's going to say in progress. So I have to wait for that status to say deployed before I can start using the distribution. But what I'm going to use from this distribution is right here. It's the domain name. So I'm going to open up my simple web page that I created. Here it is. It's called Hello World. There's nothing really on this page. It just says Hello World and then it shows the image. This is not actually a working link. This is just a template link that I wrote that shows, it says domain name and image. So in domain name, we're going to copy the name of the distribution we just created, which is going to be this domain name of the distribution. And then where I wrote image, that's going to be the name of the image that we just uploaded to our S3 bucket. So normally when you want to use some type of content for your S3 bucket, you're going to copy the entire public link to it. It's going to be the bucket's name. It's going to be, you know, CloudFront E90 / New York.jpm. So we're not going to use that entire link. We're just going to use the end, just the name of the image. We're going to combine it with the domain name of the cloud distribution, insert it in the web page, and then it should work. So first we have to wait for this to say deployed. Okay, so I paused the video for a second so I could wait for that status to become deployed, and now it has. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take my distribution, look for the domain name, and then copy that into my web application. I'm going to go ahead, Control-C, open up my web page, and then I'm going to replace domain name with the domain name of the distribution. Now, in the part that says image, I want to replace it with not the entire link of the S3 image, but just the file name of it. So here I'm going to go to my bucket. I already had my S3 bucket open, so I'm going to click it here. So you can see it says Cloud Bucket Mike E90. Here's the image that I want to use, and then if you click Properties, you should see the link. Here's the public link that I would normally use in a web page, s3.amazonaws.com / the bucket name / the image name. But I'm just going to take the name of the file because I have the domain name for my distribution, and I don't want it to call directly to the bucket. I want it to come from an edge location. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, go back to my web page, and then replace the word image with the name of my file. And then over here, I'm just going to add HTTP, make that a little bit more of a proper link. So now when I save this and I open this up in a browser, the request should be fulfilled, not from my S3 bucket, but from the nearest location. In this particular case, because this is the first time this file's been uploaded, the first time this distribution's been made, it is going to call directly from my bucket, but all future requests are going to come from that edge location. This is just the first time that edge location is being used. So for instance, if I call my friend in London and I say, hey, check out my hello world.html page, he's going to open it and it's going to call my, it's the first time that edge location's being used, it's going to go directly to my S3 bucket. But now, everyone else in London who visits my web page, when they make the request for my web page, that image is going to come from the edge location. So now they're going to see that picture come up a lot faster than the first person. Now I only have one page up, one image, so either way it's going to load fast. You might not notice the difference initially, but let's say for instance I had a really dynamic website. I had videos, some streaming material, heavy duty downloads with lots of memory, tons of graphics, a lot of activity going on. The first person who does something on my website, it might initially be really slow for them. But now let's say 1,000 people from London request that data. It's still going to be a lot faster. So the difference really comes in extremely large applications and a large number of requests. And something as simple as this, you might not notice the speed difference. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to run that in the browser, and the image should appear. So yeah, there it is. So this is, you know, it's not a live web page, it's coming from my local environment, but it came up, and there's that image. And this image came from my edge location.